Hi guys, welcome to the show and this week's movie review. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. God, I really wish they had taken it off the title, but nonetheless, that's what our title is for this movie. Now, if you're a big Star Wars fan, or maybe not even a big Star Wars fan, you still know that they have announced a lot of films for the upcoming Star Wars universe, and for me, this has probably been my most anticipated one out of anything they've talked about. More so than Episode 1, and I really want to know who Rey's parents are. So, when this movie was dropped, I could not wait to get out there and go see it. Now I'm here to tell you guys what I thought about it. So before we start about what I thought, let's talk about the cast. So the cast of this film is actually going to star Felicity Jones. She plays our Jyn Erso character where, you know, she rebels. She is our heroine of this film. She's our point of interest. It also is going to star Matt Mikkelsen, who plays her father as Galen Erso, as well as Ben Mendelsohn, kind of same in the name, Ben Mendelsohn, who plays our villain in Admiral Krennic. But we're also going to get Donnie Yen in this film, which I thought was really cool because he plays a character called, I can't pronounce it. It's like I'm going to write it on the screen. That character, he plays that character, which is actually a blind staff wielding force wielder, I guess. Not Jedis, because they said there was no Jedis in this film. We also get Diego Luna, who plays Cassian Andor, I believe is what his last name was. And if you're a big fan of the Clone Wars, we get Forrest Whitaker playing Saw Gerrera, which was a character from Clone Wars that was kind of a cool tie-in to the universe from the cartoons in this film. So that's pretty much going to wrap up who the main players in this cast are. There's a lot of characters in this movie, but those are our main ones, as well as some cameos. But we won't talk about this here because this is non-spoiler. We'll talk about that when we do Rule of Two to give you a full spoiler review. So with that out the way, let's talk about the plot. Now, the plot of this film is basically the scroll to Episode 4. If you've seen Episode 4, A New Hope, and you read that scroll, you know what this movie is about, because that is all this movie is, the scroll brought to screen. Nothing more than that. How we got the Death Star plans to get us at the beginning of Episode 4. We figure out point A to point B, because I was always going to tell you how they did it. I almost screwed up, but I didn't. So yay, yay me for not giving a spoiler. But that's what's going to take care of our plot. Like I said, it's about the Death Star plans and how they got them. So now we get to talk about what I did like and what I didn't like about this, and the goods and the bads. So kind of my favorite part of this. So the goods of this film is that this movie looked amazing. I mean, so amazing, so gritty, so realistic, down to earth. I really felt like I was in this Star Wars movie more so than any other movie. Definitely not the prequels, but even out of the original ones where you felt like, you know, everything felt like it was used and it was real life. This one really made you feel like this could have really happened at one point. It could have been, I don't want to say documentary, but you felt like you really could have, this war really could have existed, and these lands and these little areas that they take you to really could be places. That was one thing I like about it. So speaking about the war part of it, the war scenes were awesome. I still make the argument that there are no real war films into the Star Wars universe. This one is it. We actually get war in this film. We get to see the AT-AT battles, sorry. We get to see, you know, more ships and stuff, and in the space battles. I mean, everything seems to be on the line when they're trying to get from point A to point B and take care with these plans. We've seen in the trailers, I'm not spoiling that for you. There is so much going on in here, and you just kind of, wow, their stakes are high. Other things that I liked about it, they had some surprising characters outside of our main cast that I really kind of fell in love with. One was the android, which was kind of a, well, at least you kind of think that it's first of all, the android's called K2SO, but you kind of get a vibe that, you know, this is their version of C3PO, but the way they differentiated the personality of this character versus C3PO really made this one stand out, as far as he's not as analytical as C3PO. He is his own person and his own personality, and I like the way that they did it. I'm really buying in on the new robots and droids that they're giving us. Kind of moving on from R2 and C3PO, now embracing, you know, like BB-8 and this K2SO character. Other character that I really liked in this film was Donnie Yen's guy. blind staff wielding force guy. I really liked his character. He had a lot of levity to his character. You know, he brought some humor. He wasn't just, oh, I'm gonna be badass, come in, boom, boom, have my scene and be out. He had some levity to his character. His character got to do things, and I thought it was a surprising role, a lot bigger than what I actually, going into the movie, felt it was going to be. Also, too, we got to see Vader in this film. That's always a good thing in this movie. Was kind of what I thought it was going to be from the beginning, as far as being Joker-ish from Suicide Squad, where it wasn't going to be as big as it seemed to be in the trailers. It is not a big role. Guys, don't have that on your minds when you go in and go see this film. It's a small role. It's great to see him back in it. It's great to see James Earl Jones do the voice again. Almost kind of took me out at one point because I was like, well, it's just James Earl Jones. It didn't come off as Vader at one point, but at another point we got to see him. I was like, oh my God, I'm so into this. Not gonna spoil what it is because it's super awesome, and when you see it, it makes everything worthwhile with Vader. All right, so that's where I'm going to stop as far as the things that I did like about this. Well, let me say one more thing. One thing that I liked about this film is that it is a standalone. And I'll tell you the reason why I like that is because, good or bad with this film, we move on. So if it's really good, it gets to be its own thing and one great thing that they did for as far as filling in the Star Wars universe. And if it's bad, then we kind of say, okay, they don't have to keep, you know, trying to fix what they did wrong with this one. And this film is not perfect, and we'll talk about that in the bads, but I do like the fact that it's a standalone and it just fills a gap for me. So I thought that was really awesome with this movie, and I like that from the beginning all the way through how they saw it unfold in the movie itself. Now, let's talk about the bads. So the bads of this movie's too long. This movie's way too long. It had too many characters in it. It makes the first half of this movie drag. I'm sorry. They tried to flesh out the main cast and characters, what they should do, but then they added all these extra characters in it that probably didn't need as much screen time as they got, or maybe even needed to be in the film altogether. And I'm not going to talk about them specifically, but there are some characters in here that really didn't need to be in there. They were kind of cool to see them. And I'm not talking about the cameos, because the cameos were just fun, but some characters were like, did it really need to be in there? And I'll point out one. Did Forrest Whitaker's character really need to be in there? Some of the other rebellion characters didn't really need to be in there. I think it kind of slowed us down to a point where the second half of this movie is really, really awesome. I think if we'd have spent more time on just Jyn Erso and getting to the second half of this movie would have flowed better. The movie's over 2 hours, like 2:15 or 2:17, something like that. If they'd have got it down like 30 minutes and took out a lot of the extra stuff that they put in here, I think this movie would have been an amazing movie. Maybe it would have rivaled Empire, because I will not be blasphemous and say that this movie somehow takes down Empire, because it does not. In a nutshell, for me, this movie is just okay. And that's not a bad thing, but that's just what this movie is. It's a good movie. It filled in a lot of holes. And with some things that I'm not going to spoil here, it filled in some things that we always had in the Star Wars universe. It filled in a lot of those gaps, and that's what it was meant to do. So I guess I kind of jumped the gun and told you how I felt about the movie. But I would like to know how you guys felt about this movie, especially being Star Wars fans, because I know when I came out of the theater, there were some people were like really high up on this movie, like this was the best Star Wars film that they had ever seen, and some people were kind of down on it because of maybe the extended part of the beginning of the film kind of brought them down a bit. This film got reshoots, and maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe some of the flowing got kind of thrown off in the reshoots. I don't know, I wasn't there, but that's how I feel about this movie. Make sure you guys put in the comments below what you guys thought about the movie. Like I said, this is just a non-spoiler review. We'll do the full spoiler review when we do our next Rule of Two segment, and then we'll talk more in depth as far as all the amazing things that did happen in this movie. All right, so that's all I got for this week. Take care.